Hey folks, welcome back to Failure at Retirement. What I want to talk about today is my most valuable asset, and that would be my time. This is more for the younger folks, and I realize I don't have a very young audience, but if you're retired already, yeah, this probably matters to you a little bit, but not really in the same way. So, and I talked about in a previous video not long ago about how I manage my time in retirement. Totally different thing. So stick with me on this one here for a minute, especially if you're younger and still working. So I realized years ago that my time was my most valuable asset. And I know what you're thinking. Yeah. There's the obvious. You can't make any more of it. You're not getting any more of it. You can't buy it. All that stuff. That's the obvious stuff, right? So the real deal, in my opinion, once you realize the value of your time, then you start concentrating in on how you can leverage that. So what do I mean by how you leverage your time? Well, like one of the first things I did is I start looking for higher paying jobs. Just higher paying jobs. I once switched jobs for 25 cents an hour. Now, this was back in the 90s, and there's a lot more to the story than that. But I literally, at one point in time, switched jobs for 25 cents an hour. It wasn't working out great with the company I was with. The new company offered me 25 cents more. I had applied to both jobs at the same time, so I wasn't heavily invested in the one I was working at the time. I'd only been there for 2 months or something, I think. Anyway, so you start looking for higher paying jobs. And then on top of that, what I did is I was like, if there was any overtime available to work, like I was on it. I would work all the hours that I could get at my regular job, and then I usually had my side hustle on top of that. So if you compare that to a person who's working a 40 and clocking out and going home, well, their income is just probably not what yours is because you're working some time and a half, maybe some double time. You've got your side hustle on top of that. So this is how I went about initially leveraging my time to increase my income. And that is part of what made my time so valuable. I used to work with quite a few people who absolutely hated working any overtime. They would actually get very angry when we got told, hey, you're working this weekend or whatever. They would get very angry, and I would tell them, like, I don't understand. Why the anger? We're going to make extra money. And they would say, nope, government's going to take it all. I get a couple hours overtime on my paycheck. I look at my tax bill, it's much higher. The government's taking it all. And I would try to tell them, like, I don't know how you do your taxes or what IRS you deal with, but I pay taxes on a percentage. And so, yes, an individual paycheck, it may have flipped me up into a different bracket or something. But at the end of the year, when you settle up with IRS on your taxes, it's just going to be a percentage. So why wouldn't you just focus on the end game instead of, next week? And then I figured out those same people are the brokest people I know. They're working the 40. They're refusing to work anymore. They don't have a high side hustle. They are not like respecting their own time. They are literally the brokest people that I know. So this goes on for a while, and I wasn't going to mention this, but I think I will because it's so closely related. So the first couple of decent jobs I had after college were salary jobs. And in college, my friends and I, that's kind of what we were after, right? Get into a nice salary position. You just make the same every month. You're not worried about, maybe clocking in the same time every day or whatever the case may be, whatever we thought, I don't know. But what I figured out when I got laid off from that second good job, there was a couple others in between. Those salary jobs, that's no good. Not in my world, it wasn't. They don't respect your time. This is how this is tied together so closely. I never worked for anybody on salary personally. I'm sure there's industries that are different, jobs that are different. Everybody I worked for in salary, they never respected my time. They would always, tell me on Wednesday, oh, by the way, we're working all weekend, or, you know, we're working 12s. Well, you're not really paying me for that. I'm on salary. You're kind of entitled to your 8, maybe a little extra. Nope, don't matter. Be here Saturday, 6 a.m. Okay, you know, and I realized they had no respect for my time. So from then on out, uh, I would tell them, like when I was interviewing or when I was offered the job, I would tell them, I'm not going to work on salary. You got to pay me by the hour. You got to come up with a different program. And they would always ask why and tell me, well, we don't do that. Everybody here is on salary. And I would just tell them straight up, no, you're going to pay me by the hour or not at all. I'll go somewhere else. And cocky, yeah, undoubtedly. But there was other jobs out there. And just because I was looking for one didn't mean I had to have theirs. So, they would argue with me and I would tell them, look, when you call me in on Sunday morning to come work at 12 or whatever, you need to know what that's going to cost you. When I'm working Saturday and it's my 7th day and I'm up for double time, guess what? You need to know that before you schedule me in or call me on your big emergency. When you call me at 2 a.m. and want me to come into work, you better know in your mind, hey, I'm not getting this for free. I'm going to have to pay. I'm going to have to pay failure for this. It's going to cost money. Well, maybe I'll call somebody else. Or maybe I won't make the call. Maybe it'll wait till morning after all. So, sorry. So, side diversion. Salary, same thing. You're on salary. Most places, in my opinion, you're basically their slave. They're not going to respect your time. They have no value for your time the way that you should have value for your time. So the next thing, and I learned this over years, folks, like this didn't come to me all at once. This took a couple decades of toil to figure this one out. But you have to value your time. And I really learned this probably more being self-employed. You have to place a value on your time. And it's not, you can't be fooling around with stuff that doesn't return much for your time. You have to have a high value on that. For your side hustles, you might want to think about just maybe charging just a little bit more because that'll make a difference to your income at the end of the year. If you invest that money properly, well, you'll be rewarded at the end of the day with a much bigger investment, much bigger nest egg. So you have to place a value on it. And what I did is I realized that there was a lot of things that I was doing where I wasn't placing a high value on my time. I was doing this work, but I wasn't really getting anything out of it or very little out of it. So what are you doing? Like, get out of that and get into something that'll return money for your time. And really, that really works, I think, for anyone, but it's especially critical if you're self-employed. You need to be evaluating that all the time. You need to know if you have any competition, what are they charging for this? You just really got to keep your eye on the ball. And I'm sure it depends on what kind of work you're doing, but the kind of work I was doing, I figured out I didn't need to be the low bidder on everything I did. I knew that I had people I did work for, and they knew what my capabilities were, and they can pay up for that or not. Somebody else will. And I've had people complain over the years, oh God, you're gouging me on this, you're gouging me on this. Guess what? I don't care. If you need it done and you need me to do it, you need me to work on the weekend, guess what? You're going to pay up for that. I don't care. So anyway, cocky, yes, maybe. I don't care. It's my life. It's my time. My time is my most valuable asset. Always, always, always keep that in the back of your mind because people, if they don't respect that, they'll just take advantage of you and they'll cry they can't afford it or whatever. It don't matter. What's so important that they're calling you in the first place, right? Why is their hair on fire in the first place? So it's probably because somebody else either bounced on them already or something along those lines. They want you or they wouldn't have called. So I'm going to be honest here. I don't get as much work as I used to because the things I do for other people, I'm one of the highest out there. I don't need the work. I don't need the hassle at this stage of the game. You know, years ago it was a little different, but I don't need it at this stage of the game. So that's, I guess, the advantage of being retired already. But it doesn't matter how old you are. Make people respect your time and make darn sure they pay you for it. They're not paying you for your time. What are you doing? You're just letting it get away from you. All right. So appreciate you guys watching. As always, we'll see you next time on Failure at Retirement. Have a good day.